Yeah, you said that your work's been put on hold kind of during the pandemic because there are lots of travel restrictions and but what before that or after the restrictions, what did you have to deal with large numbers of refugees?
Certainly before the lockdowns, yes, we had quite large numbers of refugees being resettled locally, and so yes, we were working with them from the day they arrived in the country.
Yeah, because it's been noticed like recently, like especially before the pandemic, before the restrictions, it's been noticed that there was lots of increase of refugees, people coming in here. So is the increase in numbers, is that a cause of worry for you or confusion for your work? Like to provide what you normally provide for these refugees and
I think
the things you need to do with them?
I think there's a slight difference. The resettlement programme works on a quota that's agreed by the local authority as to how many people will be resettled in the area. If you're referring to the number of asylum seekers that are coming into the country, that's a different piece of work that Refugee Council does. But not.
So you're not dealing with asylum seekers, just with the refugees?
That's my programme.
Yeah.
Is that I work with in Hull works with refugees that have refugee status as opposed to asylum seekers, people seeking asylum who are seeking refugee status. Mm-hmm. So I don't manage any programmes working with people seeking asylum.
Should we start about talking like the increase in the numbers of refugees flowing to Hull?
Yes.
Is that a source of worry to the council?
Is it
a cause of worry to council? I mean,
to the council,
yeah.
We see, well, I can speak for me, but I'm pretty sure I speak for the council. We in Hull see other people coming from other cultures as adding to the city's richness and depth and experience, and Hull welcomes people and has done for hundreds of years. You know, we're a city of sanctuary, yeah. And the council are very keen to...
What about service-wise, like providing services to the newcomers? I mean, it's been giving the economy of Hull, providing like it's a small town with limited resources.
Hull's a very deprived city.
It is.
And because of that, obviously the resources are limited for everybody. The council are committed that people from other cultures, refugees and asylum seekers who come, are given as much support as possible, and bend over backwards to do this. But as I say, it's a city of there's lots of deprivation. but there's a lot of, the council supports a lot of people to help refugees as well. The charities like the one I work with, Whole Help Refugees, the council have really been supportive to help them. They've helped open the hub Welcome House.
So is that to this is called Welcome House? Is it like to welcome the refugees?
It's to welcome refugees, yes. To welcome them, but also to provide practical support, emotional support. Basically, it's a hub, so it's there for them to have many of their needs met.
You spoke about the local people, the local community. How do you see the local community acceptance, so to speak, for the newcomers? I mean, was there any clashes between cultures or any issues between local people and people coming from outside the country to settle in here?
Nothing that was brought to my attention. There've always been isolated incidents, and you will get isolated incidents.
Which is normal, of course.
Yeah, that's definitely normal.
Yeah.
But there's never been anything of any serious consequence that's caused big problems for any of the families that I've worked with.
So, with refugees who come in here, as you said, there are many positive things about people coming here. Refugees normally come here for a new life and trying to do better, trying to contribute. But on the contrary, as you said, there might be some isolated incidents where we find the opposite, like refugees who come with issues or causing troubles and things like that. Do you deal with that sort of behavior, shall we say? Or how do you deal with that?
Yeah, that's definitely not our role.
Mm-hmm.
Our role is to support people, to empower, and to enable them to make their own decisions going forward, and refer them to specialist services within the city. So if somebody was struggling with their well-being, we might refer them to a well-being service. If somebody was getting themselves into trouble, then we would work with them and the police and the PCSOs to try and help understand each other.
Yeah, so basically, for my personal experience as a refugee coming through the gateway and through your organization, so do you agree if I say it's more or less like your job is to give refugees a guideline and options, and it's up to them if they want to follow that guideline and choose from these options, not to tell them what to do, but to give them the options, to explain this to them, and
completely.
And there's always the good and bad, of course.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's absolutely not our role
Yeah.
to tell people what they should or should not be doing. We give them advice and their options and their choices, and we'll work with them with what they choose to do. Sometimes people will choose to do something that we perhaps would not what we might consider not to be the best choice, but you let people learn, and then you're there.
Freedom to make mistakes.
Yes, and if they make a mistake and they come back and say that didn't work, you say, okay, so maybe we can look at something else and find another route.
So, I mean, if there are any issues, we speak about the negatives, what sort of issues are there? I mean, does the council have any role in sorting out these issues, or does the council interfere or make?
I think the council will do that.
To prevent these issues from happening?
Well, we have now got a diversity, there's now a diversity and equalities group in the council, which is a huge step. The council, you know, issues around things like housing, your hands are tied because it's very difficult within the constraints of what's available. But the issues that come up are dealt with as well as you can. You know, I can't speak for them all, but I think housing is an issue. I think also it's an arbitrary situation when people, they come to houses or rooms or flats into this city, and it's quite arbitrary who they get to know. That's life. Who they get to know, if they find out about Hull Help for Refugees, if they find out about Welcome House, hopefully they do, but there'll always be people, sadly, who
don't know.
But we're always on the lookout, and as I say, it's not an ideal world, but we're doing our best, and the council doing its best.
How do you think, we came to this point, how do you look at the locals' point of view? I know there's always the white and black and the grey everywhere, anytime. So how do you look at the locals from accepting refugees, integrating with them, encouraging them to integrate with the community? And do you think there were any issues, and is there any certain ways to deal with these issues?
Well, I'll answer that question. The ward I represent as a councillor, we have got a massive multicultural community. And I'm English. Everybody works together. I've seen many of them on different volunteer days, different community activity days, all joining in together and having fun. So I'm really pleased to say most places, most of our residents in Hull don't see that difference at all. They welcome those people, and they're happy to work with them, they're happy to get them involved in the communities. We always make sure we've got things going on in the community and bring those refugees to them.
Was there any negative side, so to speak, from refugees that you draw your attention, or something you've noticed?
No, to be quite honest, like I've said before, the only negative thing I would think is people do get confused between an immigrant and a refugee. Once you explain the difference, they then understand, just a minute, they're not coming and taking our jobs. Also, the media doesn't help, because the media can work very much against, and they'll pick up on the slightest little thing, and to the public it ends up a big...
It does have a huge impact.
It has a massive impact on what local people think, because they read it in the paper.
And good news don't sell, unfortunately.
No, obviously.
I've never seen a happy story.
You only sell papers and people watching media TV if it's a good story, and if there's a little good, if there's a good story to be had and it involves a refugee, then it's out there. I'm pleased again to say most people I know take no notice. They see what they see in a refugee, and that's it. They don't look beyond that. They don't look at what the media is saying. Most people I know in the city welcome the refugees.
As a humans, as equals.
At the end of the day, I don't like to class them as refugees, because we're actually all human beings.
We are.
Makes no difference where we come from. Makes no difference what religion we've got. We are all human beings.
Yeah.
And that's what a refugee is. They're a human being just the same as me, you, my next door neighbour, my friends, my families.
Totally agree.
Coming from quite a multicultural family.
And that's the beauty of it.
To be quite honest, I couldn't, I've not had any family members that's been affected because of the colour of the skin or the religion. And as I say, I've got Chinese, I've got Asian, I've got Indian, I've got Pakistan within a big family network. And I'm pleased to say none of my family has ever received any other than welcome to this country.
So how do you see the English, or shall we say the British community, in accepting the refugees and integrating with them? Are they very welcoming? Do they have their own cautions or observations? Or
Well, all I can say is from the community in general. Again, I have to say that Hull is well known for being a friendly city. As a councillor, I haven't personally, but then again, it's not my lived experience. I'm not the person who's experiencing being from another culture in Hull, am I? But from my own perspective and from what I've seen, from Hull Help for Refugees, I haven't seen very few negatives. Most people, when we first started in a week, Hull Help for Refugees started when the little boy was on the beach and people were so horrified, the little boys, when he was killed died on the beach. Within a week, our Unison office, which it was piled to the ceiling with donations, and from nearly 7 years we've seen nothing but absolute, people wanting to help. Very, very few negatives.
I would agree. I lived in Hull for a while. I agree.
Very few negatives.
Loving, friendly, and supportive.
Very few negatives. I have to say, from my perspective, that's just what I think.